everyone. Welcome. Happy Valentine's Day. Today is February 14th. For some of you, you're just starting your day, and others are already well into it. I hope your Valentine's Day is everything that you're hoping it will bring. My reason for doing a call today and to look at relationship is because when we think of Valentine's Day, we always think of our love relationships, which is, definitely something to celebrate. But we also have our other relationships, our relationships with our family, with our friends, the people that we spend a lot of time with at work. So today is really a day to celebrate all those relationships. And one thing that has always been of interest to me is, why is it that sometimes you meet someone and it just clicks, right? You just really enjoy each other. You have so much to talk about. It's just this instant connection. And other times you meet someone and you're struggling to bring a sane word out, and it's obvious that both of you are just like trying to find this escape route to just escape this conversation. And what I find is, when we look at human design, not only does it give you so much information about you, it also really shows you great dynamics within your relationship and what it is that you're attracting, as well as what it is where your relationship sometimes can get kind of, grouchy, or where you can get that friction going. And the thing is that we're here to, at least my belief is, that relationships really are here as a way for us to learn about ourselves, to become more of who we are. Because again, the more that you are really in alignment with you, the more you're sending out your beautiful frequency out into the world, which is really what the world needs right now. We all need to lift that. So I thought it would be really fun to take a look at a number of relationships. Again, there is so much information with human design, just in an individual chart. So let me just start there with an individual chart. A number of you already have done like the level 1 or level 2 course with me, meaning that you already have an understanding. And there are also some people here that are just starting from scratch. So I want to give a very, very, very simple overview of what it is that we're looking at in human design. So you know that when you were requesting your chart, you had to give me your birth information, and that included your date, your place, and your time of birth. And what we do with that information is we do a calculation, and we get the calculation of the moment of your birth, which are the numbers on the right-hand side. And there's another calculation, which is about 3 months before your birth. And this gives us your unconscious information, the information that you take with you from past lives. It's really the information that is also getting you ready for this lifetime. And this is more like the soul information. So together, this then creates this chart, which includes astrology. As you can see, here are the planetary symbols. In this figure in the center that really shows you, or shows us you, we look at the different centers, and the centers are a reflection of the chakra system. Then we look at the channels in between, those connections. Those are like the tree of life from the Kabbalah. And then the I Ching, those are reflected here in the numbers of the hexagrams. DNA is included, which comes back in this past life information, as well as quantum physics, because wherever one gate, we call these, connects to another, it actually becomes an exponentially increased amount of information that's available to us there. So, like I said, a lot of information within each individual chart. And my goal today is not to talk about each individual in depth. My goal today is to take a look at a number of different relationships and just get a feel of, like, what is yummy in this relationship? What makes it tick? And maybe if there is time, what are some things that either one of you brings in where you can focus on to support the other, or well, we'll see what comes out. I have received a lot of requests, which I think is wonderful. I honestly don't know how far we will get, but we'll do our best. Okay. I'm hearing some lightning. Wow, this is fascinating. We have a beautiful storm happening at the moment. So, all right. So one of the things that we start looking, when we look at relationships, we always focus on, well, what is the type? You know, when you received your chart, you will see at the top section, there will be a number of different words, and one of those is the type. And in human design, there are actually 5 different types. Each type has their own aura, their way in how their energy is used during the day. So for instance, if we look at the top right, here we have the aura of the generator or the manifesting generator. And with that particular aura, it's a very warm, very enveloping aura, which kind of gives you an idea that sometimes the same type together actually can do really well, because a generator with that same aura basically wakes up in the morning with a certain amount of energy, and they recognize in the other person, oh, you have that same amount of energy. That manifesting generator or generator, you know, you have that same amount of energy, you're looking for the same kind of thing, that satisfaction, and you recognize when things are not going so well, you have that sense of frustration. So there is this recognition between, you know, 2 people of the same type. Conversely, here you have the manifester. Now the manifester is a very different type, and their aura is more enclosed, and it's more resistant. A manifester is here to catalyze change, and therefore they really need to kind of be this force that kind of pushes through things, which for other types to be around, like for a generator with this open aura, and then having a manifester kind of pushing through, is not always comfortable. So there needs to be communication, right? So you start to see how that kind of works. A manifester also needs a lot of freedom to be able to do what they want to do. And they may not always tell you that they love you. They're just like out there showing it to you. At least that's how they're like, well, I love you. What's your problem? Right? Don't you know? And then we have here on the bottom right, we have the projector. And the projector's energy is one that's really focused. As you can see, this energy is really focusing into this other person, which means that, again, if we're talking, for instance, about the generator with this open aura is having to be available for that projector energy, that focus to come in. But let me tell you, as a generator myself, when a projector focuses their energy on me or invites me, that makes me really feel seen. And then for a projector themselves, it's really important that they feel seen, because if they do not feel recognized for what it is that they truly bring in, then the other person will project all kinds of things on the projector, trying to make themselves, you know, kind of squirm themselves into a fit for that other person, which is really painful, can be incredibly painful. And then here we have the reflector on the bottom left. The reflector has this beautiful, open, diffuse energy that is kind of almost like Teflon on the one hand. It kind of goes out and it samples, but it reflects everything in their surroundings, meaning that for a reflector, the reflector themselves really goes through life with a sense of having to have trust in everyone that they meet and everything that they're encountering, because they are taking so much in, they're sampling so many different things. The partner of a reflector gets this great opportunity to see themselves being reflected by the reflector, and get this great opportunity to fall in love with themselves, in effect, which is really, truly beautiful. Because again, ultimately, my view on relationships is that we are here to learn through the other. You know, if you're just sitting by yourself on a mountaintop, you can be as enlightened as you want to be, but it's not going to be real unless you're out there in the world engaging with other people and you can actually practice your loving, practice that kindness, that compassion. And that is ultimately what gives us the opportunity to learn about ourselves. Okay. So we're always interested in what we are not. You see here a chart with basically the different centers. Very, 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 very few people actually have all those centers filled in. All right. I've actually not met anybody who has had all those centers filled in. But what we do in our relationships, you'll notice that we'll have charts that we're going to look at in a moment that will have certain centers filled in. And then when you put the two people together, all of a sudden you will see a lot more centers will be filled in because we're looking for what we're not. It's interesting to us to find out what the other person has. And again, those are the areas of gifts and of wisdom for us, where we learn about ourselves, where we learn about life. And those are the areas where we can really experience life through. So those are one of the things that we're going to be looking at. And here are some other things that we're going to focus on. So people who have done the level 1 program, they know about circuitry and they know about the centers. So those are kinds of the things that you can start thinking of when you see those charts. And if you want to play with me, I'd love it for you to just put in the chat those things that you see in a chart, because that really will create a conversation, and it will be a lot of fun, I think, for everybody. Plus, it gives you an opportunity to practice. Okay. We'll also take a look at some of the channels. Again, we're not going to be able to go in depth in any of these charts. I'm just going to pick out little things that I notice that may be of interest for specifically the couple, but also for others that are listening. So we'll look at some of the channels. Here's something that we have not talked about in any of the programs, and that's about the profile and the north and the south nodes. Now, profile, you'll notice in your little top section of your chart, it will give you 2 numbers. There are ultimately 12 profiles. A number of those are very common, and when there is a common profile and you have both the same profile, it's an easy resonance. It's an easy harmony in how you connect together. And then there are, again, when the numbers are the same. If there are, numbers that are different, it doesn't mean that your relationship has no way of surviving. It just simply means that there is not necessarily that quick and easy connection. And the same for the north and the south nodes. They have information, again, that we have not discussed in any of the programs yet. We're going to talk about all this in the level 3 program, but it gives you the direction of your relationship. Like, are we moving both, or both growing in the same direction, or are we both having our own direction, which is still very possible to have a relationship where you both have your own direction. It depends on the space that you're providing for that. So that said, before we delve into the charts, I just want to give a blanket statement, is that there are no bad charts for relationship, okay? What may come up is that it may not necessarily be as easy, or it may not necessarily be clicking as much as you might like to see. Then again, every relationship takes work. Okay, so even the relationships that on paper seem really easy, they're still going to take work. Yes, so I just want you to keep that in mind as we're going through the different charts. So everybody ready? Here we go. Okay, we are going to start with Christy and James. So what we're going to do first is we're going to take a look very briefly at the individual people, and then we're going to put the charts together and see what happens. Okay, so on the left hand side we have Christy, and Christy is a generator. And on the right-hand side, we have James, who is a manifesting generator. Their energy is about the same kind of way, in that they both have this open aura. They both have this getting into things too quickly for both of them, especially James. His energy is a little bit more impatient, a little bit quicker than Christy's energy in general, but both of you have a lot of energy. Both of you have this available energy that is always looking for satisfaction or frustration. You know, when you're recognizing that things are frustrating around you, it means that you're not doing the right thing for you, versus when you're having that sense of satisfaction, that means that life is going, you know, you're using your energy well during the day. Both of you are what I call emotionally defined. So that's one of the things that I look at is as you're making decisions, you know, as I mentioned, James is very quick. He will tend to be too quick for his own good in general. For both of you, you have this emotional wave. For both of you, you need this time to go through and really wait until you have that inner clarity before you make decisions. And Christy, if you're here, I see you're here. If you feel like you want to type little things in, whether something fits or not, that would be very helpful. So now let's put your charts together and we get a very different picture, right? Remember that I just said that we're trying to fill our little missing spots. Where is that part of me that's not being filled in? Well, here you go. You both fill in a lot together, which is a really fun way of looking at this. And when you are together, you actually tend to make decisions really well and quickly too. But there is a way in how you're processing information together that's very, very helpful. One of the things that I always look at is where is the center that's open, which is right over here. And the center that is open is the center of inspiration, which means that in your relationship, both of you will get inspired by all kinds of different things, can bring you to this sense of awe, this sense of like, wow. And it's a wonderful place to be able to grow together. Doesn't necessarily mean that that is, you know, without any friction, because you may be inspired by different things, but it is a place where both of you can connect through. You two also together have this channel of the 59-6. We saw earlier that both of you have this channel defined in your own charts. And this is the channel of connection, the channel of intimacy. So when you're putting this together, there's a real friendship within your intimacy, which is really lovely. Let me check really quick. Yeah, so one of the things too that I look at is, so whenever you guys fight, like who has the upper hand, and you're bringing in that mind ability, like this really busy mind, this busy way of thinking, this busy way of conceptualizing. So you're very, very strong with your mind. He is bringing the ability to vocalize it together. You're sharing that connection to be able to vocalize that. But whenever you have an argument, I can almost imagine that you can get to the point of like, what's the argument really? Like there is a way of kind of stepping over the real fighting into, well, this is how I think it is. I'm just offering this up, Christy, if that is a possibility, if you see that within your relationship. Let's see. And one quick thing that I want to comment on is you see where people make connections like this, where half of it is like striped, like here, half of it is striped, the other half is basically followed or connected by the other person. In those areas, it's an area where you can take each other off track sometimes. And it's like, hey, who is leading who right now? And let's see, do I want to say something about your intuition? Both of you have a very strong intuition, and I think that that can be incredibly powerful for both of you to listen to your own intuition and to have the other person listen to your intuition, to really support each other into listening to your intuition. All right, and Christy says, sounds very familiar. Great, excellent. All right, well, let's move on. Thank you, Christy. Going on to Sue and Angus. Again, we have a lot of charts, so I want to make sure that I go through some charts, like as many charts as possible. Sue on the left side, Angus on the right-hand side. You see Sue has a lot of the bottom part filled in, Angus top part filled in. Sue is a generator, Angus a projector. So what we know with the projector is that a projector doesn't always have a lot of energy, right? Their energy is available, but then it really needs time to kind of recoup. It really needs his own space to be able to kind of, take a nap and just be by himself and just have his space to recover. While Sue is like, all right, let's go. She really has a lot more energy. So for Sue, there is a possibility to overwhelm Angus sometimes with her energy, and Angus has to be really clear in saying, all right, I really need to take a nap now, or just let me be me for a little bit. Let me just be by myself. So where Sue is bringing in the direction in the relationship, you can see here it is the center of the self, the center of direction, and in how to manifest that direction. Angus is bringing in the ideas. He is bringing in the great solutions that he sees, like the things that he sees in the environment that should be able to run better, and to really, talk about politics and just have great conversations that way. So when you now bring the two together, look what happens. Everything gets filled in but the heart center. Now in human design, the heart center, when we talk about the heart center, is about willpower, determination. It's also about value. So here is this openness of maybe not necessarily knowing the value that either of you bring in life. You can really grow through that and have the wisdom of what you value in each other, but not necessarily being able to be aware of your own value. You also bring in this channel and this channel together, which is the channel of the thinker. Now, this is a channel that's really powerful in that it has, together you have these amazing conversations that are just so inspiring, that really bring insight in how the world works and how particular people maybe can really be empowered through what you're bringing in, this beautiful insight together that you're formulating together. You also are both so sensitive to each other. You both individually brought this channel in, and when you're bringing this in together, you're really sensitive to each other's needs, more sensitive than to your own needs. So the beauty is that Angus is sensitive to Sue's needs, and Sue is sensitive to Angus's needs. So there's this really beautiful taking care of each other. I hope that makes sense. All right, so I'm going on. Oh, and Sue says, so true. Beautiful. Excellent. All right, so let's go on and talk about Soren and Mary. Again, we're looking first at what the types are. Here we have a manifestor type on the left-hand side. Let me see, that is a manifesting generator, actually. Manifesting generator on the left-hand side, and also manifesting generator on the right-hand side, which is nice, right? Because when you both have that same kind of impatient energy, this ability to kind of go 90 miles an hour in one direction and then just stop and go another 90 miles in another direction, it's nice to have that same kind of flavor. What's interesting to note is that both of you have the heart center filled in, both of you have the spleen center filled in. So those are places where you can really look at life in kind of that same way. You know, it's not something that you either need to focus on, because both of you already have that. Which also means for both of you that if or when you have an argument, one easy way to get you both back grounded is by focusing on the body. Because you both have the spleen center. Spleen is about health, it's about bodily awareness. So it's about being able to share, like if one of you is really upset, the other person can just offer something that brings you back into your body. Like, gosh, are you hungry? Would you like some juice? Would you like, can I make a sandwich for you? Just kind of diffusing the energy, getting you back grounded in your body to be able to move on. What's really fun to notice too is how Soren grounds Mary. You know, if you look at Mary's chart on the right-hand side, you see that there's this root center that's completely undefined, completely open, we call it. There's no activation, which can feel a little unsafe sometimes for Mary, like there is no real grounding. And look at Soren, he brings that in for her. Yeah. And then he's got this solar plexus, meaning for him, he will take longer to make decisions than Mary. But this is a really yummy center for Mary. It really is a place where she can, when he feels good, she will feel twice as good. Now, Mary, when Soren doesn't feel so good, when he feels a little depressed, which is very, it's very possible with an emotionally defined center, there is this moodiness that comes along with it. That whenever that happens, you have to understand, Mary, you are not responsible for his emotional well-being. Okay, and there may be a tendency to want to fix it and to want to, help him through it. Is not necessary. It's really for him to be able to manage his own emotions. So now let's put your two charts together. Here we go. We've got a lot going on, right? So one of the things that I look at when we look at the channels is how many of these kind of connections where one is bringing one half and the other is bringing the other half. And so we see there's 1, 2, 3, and did I just see another one? 4, yes. So those areas are where sparks fly. And where sparks fly, that can be both really yummy, and that's really that sense of attraction, yeah, as well as that can be an area where sparks fly and be more volatile, okay? So it's like, who in the relationships, like how do you focus together? How are you creative together? So when I talk about creativity, we're looking at this connection right here, the 1 and the 8. So the 1 brings in the creativity, the 8 brings into this enthusiasm that brings in other people, like how can we collaborate on this together? So there is this possibility to really have this, that together you're really very creative in how you are as a couple. Like there's this creativeness that comes out that you get to express and that other people comment on, like, wow, you guys always do these interesting things. And it can be anything, right? It can be from how you decorate your house to how you travel to, it can be all kinds of things like that. And by the way, Mary, you really like travel. Travel is a good way to experience yourself. Let's see, there's also a nice resonance within the profile. Like here, there is this 2 line, and here's the line 2. There's a resonance between the 5 and the 1. That is, I'm sorry, the, wait, hold on, the 5 and the 2, 1 and the 3. So there is a nice resonance in general between how you two connect and how you ground in your relationship. Any comments, Mary? If you're on the call, feel free to type them in. And let's go on to Celine and John. Very different charts here, right? Isn't that interesting how it can be just so completely different and still a relationship happens like that? So here on the left-hand side, Celine is a generator, an emotional generator, because she has that solar plexus over here. So again, that solar plexus brings in a yumminess for John, who has that undefined. John is actually a projector. And again, with the projector, they have this beautiful frequency that not everybody catches. But when you catch it, then that person is really just so interesting to you. So for Celine, catching John's frequency and really inviting him in and recognizing him is really opening for John. It's a really powerful thing. John has a very powerful intuition, comes from his spleen center, and his spleen center, the fact that he has this filled in and Celine does not, when we overlay the chart in just a moment, you will see that will be filled in. And for Celine, this gets her a sense of well-being. You know, that connection of well-being is so comfortable to have this sense of, oh, I'm safe, I'm feeling good. So let's see what happens when we overlay those charts. Something completely different happens, right? Who would have thought that with 2 centers and just 3 centers in the other, all of a sudden you can have so many connections. Beautiful. So here we call it almost a whole Christmas tree lights up, is how we say that. The one center that's not defined is that same center of inspiration. Inspiration coming in through, with Celine, through seeing so many different opportunities, so many different possibilities that are out there. And this is kind of how it comes in within the relationship. It's like, what is out there? Yeah, so together, that's a place where you can grow together. Again, may not necessarily always be the easiest place, but it is an area where you can grow together. And then when we look at those places where you have those connections together, here we have one, also that same connection of being really creative within your relationship. There's this creativity that's being brought in. Over here, this is the channel of the shaman. I don't know if the two of you together are bringing in this interest in like spirituality, in a sense, in different realms, in different realities, because that really is a possibility where you're bringing this in for each other. And then there is this area over here where connection is in how do you focus on things. One of you brings in the details, the other one brings in the stillness and the focus. So together, again, you bring in this this sense of grounding in each other, this sense of well-being in Celine, and this sense of the emotional connection for John, that yumminess, that sexiness, that is real, like there's a real sexual attraction there. And Celine, if there's any comments that you want to make in the chat about your relationship, things that resonate for you, or maybe question marks, it's possible too. And again, there is so much more in the chart. We're really just looking at a couple of different things. There's a lot of friendship that you have together where you're looking at life in the same way, where you're looking at life through this sense of like, what are some really amazing ideas? Like, both of you are idea persons, and you really appreciate that in each other. All right, and let's then move on to Heather and Emmanuel. Very different charts. Again, beautiful to see. We see a manifesting generator at the top, which is Heather, and at the bottom we see the generator. So slight difference in energy. Both of you will have that energy, looking for satisfaction and also recognizing that frustration that can happen sometimes, and really being able to support each other with that. And then there is this area where, you know, Heather can be really quick and can really be a little forceful in how she wants things. Like, wanting things in life is really important for her, more so than for Emmanuel. So when we overlay this chart, look at this, it's completely filled in. And when a chart together is completely filled in, it means that there may not necessarily be as much space for other people, right? There is, you just, when you two are together, it's like you're focusing on each other. You don't need other people around you. However, when I look really, really good, I see that, let's see, in level 1, we talked about splits. And splits are areas where a chart, where different components are separate or are connected together. And there is a separation right here. Let me see if I can find my mouse right here. You see it here in between the center of the self and the throat. And then again around the self and the heart center, going around and not connecting to here the emotional center. So sometimes it may be that there is this mental conversation going on between the two of you, Heather and Emmanuel, that is not necessarily connected with your other wisdom, like your intuition and your gut response and your emotional connection. It may not always be able to talk as easily about your emotions and like what's really going on. So for the two of you, it's easily to make that connection, to have, be in a public situation where people are able to fill that gap without actually having to have a conversation with this person, like a coffee shop or a restaurant. That may be a really good place to, whenever you have, something big that you need to discuss, to be able to bring that in together, because you can see right here it can be easily bridged, right here it can be easily bridged, and here too. So it's not a big deal. It's easy to make those connections there for both of you. You got some really nice ways in how you can debate things. I bet you two have great conversations and have, being able to debate all kinds of issues together. You also have this beautiful connection right here between the 41 and the 30, which is about getting into experiences together, about having this imagination of, what might be possible. And just to keep in mind that whatever you're expecting about something may not necessarily what will happen. It's all about, okay, I have the expectation, now I'm letting go, and we're just going to experience it and having fun with it. And you both have this ability to be so social and connect with other people so easily. So there's a lot of friendship within your relationship too, where you look at life in the same way. You look at life with depth. That knowledge is interesting to both of you. All right, Heather, Emmanuel, any comments? If you're here, any comments that you want to make, please put them in the chat. And I'm just kind of spouting out a lot of different things that I'm seeing, but I would love for people to just put in the chat the things that you're seeing, things that you're recognizing, maybe things that you're recognizing that are in your chart as well, or things that you've gleaned over the past number of months, if you've delved into human design, things that are interesting to you that are showing in the charts. Please bring them up, because it makes for a more interesting conversation. Okay, let's see. Here we have Nancy and Bruce. Very different charts, right? You see on the left-hand side, we have Nancy's chart. And interestingly, Nancy's chart has definition on the right-hand side, while Bruce has definition on the left-hand side. Isn't that interesting? So one of the things that we've talked about with human design classes is about the circuitry and about what the different qualities of the circuitry are bringing in. So looking at Bruce's chart, Bruce is a very logical person, and he may not be aware of how logical he is. He's very enthusiastic, has great talent, most likely a love of music, and has this ability to make Nancy feel good. Again, he has that spleen center that Nancy does not have. Now, Nancy does not have the spleen center. She, on the other hand, has the emotional center, which is very yummy to Bruce. Look at Bruce's side. His emotional center is completely undefined. So for Bruce, having the emotions from Nancy can feel really, really good. Now, where Bruce is very logical and is about wanting to share information, wanting to share his talent, and to want to be understood. You may notice, Nancy, that in arguments he may say, I just want to be understood. I don't think you understand me. You need to understand me. That might be a word that he brings up. For you, you actually have different circuitry. You have this circuitry that's very individual. And that individual circuitry is acoustic, so it's good at listening, which is nice, makes a nice resonance there. But it also is about this sense of knowing and empowering. So you may find that you tend to want to empower him. You do actually have both logical and abstract circuitry, so the understanding part resonates for you as well. And here's more individual circuitry. So again, that sense of wanting to empower, saying things that are empowering is really something where you would like to be heard and like to resonate. So when we put your charts together, again, it's so amazing to me when you have two charts that look so different. When you put them together, it's like almost everything lights up. Yeah. So we have that same heart center that's undefined. Again, that is about value, about what you value in life. And maybe both of you may not necessarily be as aware of your own value, but you can value the other person. You can see the value in the other person. You two have a lot of connections that can make life really yummy. There is this real care that you have for each other, this real taking care of each other, and also a love of the body. There's this really wanting to support each other in health, but also like the love of the body and how do you express yourself through your body. And what is fascinating too is that this whole center here completely lights up through these two connections, which is an interest in trying to make sense of the past. So there is an interest in past relationships, past societies, past wisdom, anything that can kind of, that you can both process together and that you can really just go deep in within the conversation to make sense of things. So I don't know if you're here, Nancy or Bruce, if you have any comments and if you want to put them in the chat, that would be really fun. And let's see, who else do we have? Here we have Petra and I'm going to say this in Dutch because I know they're Dutch. Petra and Gerard Jan. It's kind of fun for me to do. Very different charts again. Look at how beautiful this is. We have Gerard who has this bottom part filled in, and Petra is more the top. So Gerard really grounds you, and Gerard, I would say that Petra elevates you. She brings a slight, she brings this lightness, elevation there. So there's this really fun, top-bottom connection. Very nice. Let's see, when we look at the profile again, we see there's a resonance between the 2 and the 5, which is really nice. There's also a resonance here between the north and south notes. We see the numbers are the same, the 1s and the 2s. Again, for most of you, this really doesn't mean anything yet because we haven't talked about this yet. This is something that we discuss in level 3. But profile gives you your role in life, your perspective in life. Both of you have an easy way in connecting with other people in general. You may not always feel like you fit in, especially you, Petra. You may feel like you're a little bit of an outsider because you bring in that individual circuitry, but there is this ease of connection with other people. Let's see, let's put the charts together and see what we can see. Very nice. So now we see there's 2 areas of growth, 2 areas of opportunity in life where both of you can really focus. Now, when that happens, it may be that one of you is focusing on the one and the other is focusing on the other area. So it may not necessarily be that both of you will be focusing on the same thing all the time, but it is for both of you in your relationship something that keeps your focus, something that will draw your attention. Let's see, you have this connection over here as well as over here. Again, there is this love of the body that comes in, but this is connected to the intuition. So both of you have this sense of, this is called the channel of survival. There's this connection on how to recognize, like, whether you're safe in an environment. So there's this sense of safety that you're bringing in, and especially that Gerard is bringing in for you, Petra. But you're bringing in this sense of direction in life for Gerard, this sense of, oh, I have a home, I have a place that can feel really good. Let's see. I want to bring up something that can, let's see, if you're looking at your charts and you're seeing, in this case, here is an undefined, or here's a defined self-center, here's an undefined self-center. Petra, you may notice that whenever Gerard has gone away for a few days and he's been with other people, that when he comes back, he has been reflecting other people. So when he comes back, he may not necessarily feel like the same person to you. And it may actually take a couple of days to kind of ease back into, like, okay, now I start recognizing you. And in fact, you're actually, now I start recognizing myself in him again. I hope that makes sense. Petra, if you're here, if you have any comments, I'd love to have you put them in the chat. I'd love to hear people's thoughts about what you're seeing and what you're hearing. Because I'm just looking and spouting information. Now we have these two charts, which actually have a lot in common, right? You're seeing there's a lot going on that both have, and those areas that both have filled in, those are areas where you can kind of look at life in the same way. Now, not necessarily with the same flavor, because that depends on which gates and especially which line numbers, those small numbers next to the gate number. That will give you the real flavor of how you're looking at life. But this gives you an idea of, yeah, we do like to think. We both are interested in knowledge. We're both interested in conceptualizing, making sense of our past. It's really something that connects us because we're both talking about that all the time. You may notice that both have no connection directly to the throat. So it may not always easy to bring this out, like what goes on. For both of you, a lot happens in here that may not necessarily be voiced, but you'll be able to voice it when you go out to dinner and other people make up that connection. And all of a sudden you have these, like, wow, I've been thinking about that too. You have these great conversations that are coming out that way. So let's see what happens when we put the two charts together. So now we see that a lot happens, right? A lot is filled in, except for this. So what is interesting is that neither one is a generator. So there is no consistent energy in the relationship, which, by the way, is not a bad thing. I'm just saying that both of you really need to be able to be aware of your own energy. You both have your own way in how you manifest your energy. And it's really a way in being able to take care of yourself. And you may take naps at different times, or maybe you take naps together. That is possible too. But both of you really do need to regularly take time for yourself. And Petra is commenting about her chart. It's so true. Amazing. Thank you. Excellent. I'm glad it resonates. So when we are looking at this chart, you see there's these different areas that are, again, not necessarily connecting to other areas, meaning that there's, in the relationship, there's different ways in how you process your knowing, how you process your information. So it may not always be easy to talk about your emotions or to be really clear about what is going on emotionally, right? It may be more clear to be able to say what what you are about, like I am this or I want that. That is an easier thing to connect with within your relationship. It's good for both of you to sometimes take time and be in public situations so that you get to tap into that amazing intuition that's there, that is able to share about what is right, what is aligned with values, because there are so many of these beautiful areas where you're connecting in your relationship. One is through how the values that you're both bringing in life. There's this real nice resonance there. There's a resonance through the intimacy, which is really fun, right? There's also this recognition that both of you do need to take time for yourself and to be able to give the other the space for that. There's this interest possibly in this real spiritual, this deep spiritual knowledge, deep spiritual realities, different realms, that both of you have this possibility, as well as being able to listen to each other really well. So there's a lot of friendship in this relationship. Very nice, very nice. And by the way, if there's any comments that you have about that, Martine, beautiful, just write them in the chat. I'd love to hear them. Here we have Isabel and Laurent. So nice to see these charts. Again, you can immediately see both of you are bringing in a lot of definition, especially Isabel. Isabel is bringing a lot of definition of her own. In general, people with this much definition, you may not necessarily need other people as much. So you're very just comfortable being by yourself a lot. Doesn't mean that you don't enjoy being with other people. It just really allows you to have a space for yourself, like real lot space. And it may be that Laurent might want to have more space from you, because look, Laurent's definition, there is a gap between the top and the bottom. Yes, and so because we're always looking for what we're not, there is this desire of like, ooh, I want more of you. So that's just something to be aware of, Isabel, that is something that may show up within your relationship. Like, hey, I'm perfectly happy by myself, just doing my own thing. And that sometimes Laurent will be like, hey, but listen, I really want to have more time with you. Now, when we put these two charts together, you see there's a lot going on. There is a lot of mental connection, a lot of mental stimulation. There's a huge way in how you empower each other through, there's this creativity, again, that you're bringing in together. There's a lot of energy that you're bringing in your relationship. Like, look at this. This is going all the way up, directly to the throat. This is going all the way up. You see, there's this really nice connection in how all the different components of the charts, of the individual charts, are really pulled together into this like one area. There's this one way of being, this one being, truly, where there is this one focus of that heart center. And look at this heart center. It is completely open. There's no definition there. Again, it's about value. And do you feel valued in your relationship? And being able to value the other more, then you're aware of your own value. So you can bring each other that value, that sense. Yeah. So there's a nice connection here too. We call these the tantric channels, these 3 channels, and you make up 2 of these. Now, so here is the yes and, or the positive and the negative. I'd like to call them the yes and. where you have those connections, again, it's really where the sparks fly. So it's really where there is a lot of attraction, and that can be really yummy. And it can also be where you're pulling each other kind of out of your own rhythm, because one of you, Laurent, is bringing in this area, the 15th gate, which is about having his own rhythms, and you have more of like a set rhythm. Yeah. So together, you're creating this whole new pattern, which when you're both in really listening to your gut response, you're both listening to your intuition, to your emotional solar plexus, then what happens there is that you enter in it correctly, so you'll get into the rhythm that is really nice for both of you. And if you're entering in it incorrectly, if you're doing it for the other person and not for yourself, not getting that gut response, then what happens is that you may trip over your feet. You may get out of your own rhythm. So that's something to be aware of. Same thing for this. This is also a lovely channel where you really delve into the experience together and really can just get into things really deeply. It can be really, really yummy, as long as you're following your authority and your gut response and your emotional awareness. Okay. Any other comments anybody has, please bring them up. And let's do one more chart. Let's see, we have Steve and Micah. We see Steve on the left-hand side, manifesting generator, and then Micah, projector, on the right-hand side. Very different energies, right? So Steve's energy is go, go, go. Can be very quick, it can be impatient. Micah is very quick too in how she processes information, but she runs on other people's energy. She runs on Steve's energy. So Micah, for you, definitely an awareness that you need to bring in your own energy. You really are not bringing your own, you need to listen to your own energy and really check in with yourself, with your own sense of knowing, like, how am I talking about my energy? Am I starting to tell people that I'm tired? Is it time for me to take a rest? You know? So when we put the two charts together, look at that. Everything lights up except for the solar plexus, which creates a relationship. Like, it's interesting because most relationships actually are, the solar plexus is defined, it's actually an emotional connection. For both of you, your relationship actually brings a sense of calm. Now, there's a lot of areas where you connect. I actually count, like, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, which is a lot. Yeah. So I'm thinking that when you two are together, there can be this real, like, ooh, yummy. We can be really just like so connected. And it can also be where the sparks fly. Usually if you have like anywhere between 1 and 3 of those connections, that can feel good. You know, that's a lot to work with. If you have that much, it can sometimes be like overwhelming. So definitely important for you, Micah, to really take your time and be by yourself sometimes, because it can be a little overwhelming. You know, you can get together and really get into it, and then spend time just by yourself, kind of regrouping and getting into your own thing. Any comments, any thoughts? Please put them in the chat. Love to hear from you. And I'll just go on for just a little bit more. Here we have Werner and Karina. Werner and Karina actually have a lot of definition the same, and then there is some additional definition that Werner brings in. What's nice is that for both of you need to take time to make your decision, and you can really support each other in that, which is nice, because again, we live in an environment where it's always about, you know, you got to do this now or the deal is done, and having that pressure from outside is already a lot. But if you'd also get this from within your relationship, that can be like too much, right? So this is where you can really support each other. Like, hey, this doesn't quite fit for me. I really need to take my time. Like, what am I really feeling about it? And talk about that together. Now, Werner brings in this nice connection of the family, like making you feel you're part of the family. There's this real welcoming sense there. And Karina, you are bringing in this sense of connection, this channel that's so beautiful with a connection of this yummy sensuality, sexuality as well, and this sense of creativity too. Now let me see, I just want to check out something really quick. Okay. All right. So, and I'll let you know what I'm looking at, which is not going to tell you much, but what I'm looking at is when I look at this sixth gate, whenever people are in conflict, this is the gate of conflict revolution, or resolution, sorry. So you both have this gate. Werner has it once with the 6-3, and I'm looking at the line number. And Karina, you have it twice. You have it the 6-1, and you also have it as a 6-3. So meaning that whenever you have an argument, it's not that the one will have the last word, because both of you are bringing in the exact same line number, which is actually kind of, you're looking at the same window, which is nice, which is very nice, with a different flavor. The flavor is being brought in, you know, through the planet here. So the flavor may be unusual versus transformational, but at least you're looking at arguments through the same lens, which is really good in a relationship. Okay, so let's put you two together. Everything lights up, meaning, again, within your relationship, you may not necessarily need other people. There's a lot that you two bring in together that you can really get along with. Both of you look at your environment as a way of, hey, how can we manage this? How can we bring this in? You're getting this nice sense of grounding from this connection together. Yeah, you're bringing in this sense of safety and grounding and balance together, which is really nice, brings a sense of peace. And it actually brings a sense of like ambition. Like, I don't know if you two have a business together, but there's this sense of how can we move things up, and how can we be recognized as this couple that can do these things. And there's less a how can we, there's more, and when you two are together, a recognition by other people that will kind of lift you up and give you those kinds of opportunities. Okay, so let me say that Micah says this amazing calmness when we are together. Yes, we first met in France, both on holidays, from America, Steve, and from Sweden, me. It was instant recognition, everything spot on. Thank you, awesome. I'm so glad. Yes, human design is really, truly so amazing. There is so much information just in an individual chart, so let alone, you know, putting them together. Like, whoa, there's so much, and just pulling a few things out, and the fact that it brings such recognition really makes me happy. I'm really glad for that. So Werner, Karina, one last little thing is you both have this sense of being in the right place at the right time with the right attitude. You can really support each other with that. It's about couples massage, you know, doing nice things like that. Also this ability to really take on a situation and make it better. I don't know if you do things like home improvements, but that's definitely something that you can do together. You focus on a project and you can really together like make it something really beautiful and really fun together. All right. Oh, let me do one more. I'll do one more. And Werner, Karina, if you have any comments, please put them in the chat. We'd love to hear them. And here we have Karan. I'm not sure if I pronounced your name correctly, Karan. And I wasn't sure what your partner's name was. But you can see very different charts. You see how the partner is bringing in the bottom definition, which is really grounding and really balancing for Karan. It also gives her this sense of well-being, right? Because it fills in the spleen. While Karan, what you bring in is this lightness in how you think about things, beautiful ideas that you bring in, and a way of being that can be really a very different experience for your partner. So when we put your two charts together, you can see there's 3 areas where there's no filled in. Nothing wrong with that, except for that those are areas where you may find that your focus on within a relationship, but your focus may be in different places. Like one of you may be focusing on what is inspiring, and the other one may be focusing on the emotions, or maybe focusing on the the sense of values, like what am I doing on purpose, and what is my value in this life or in this relationship. So just to be aware of that can show up. You're in different areas. You also have really nice connections. Let me see. I see 1, 2, 3 connections. So the connection you're bringing in here is this area of details and focus, this real focus when you're together, that you can, focus on projects. You can really focus and be very logical in how you're bringing things about the future. It's very future oriented. And then we have this channel here that I mentioned earlier, this tantric channel. This tantric channel being that channel of, if you're following your gut response, if he is following his intuition, then you're entering it correctly. And what that means then is that you get into this rhythm together where life is just following your flow. Really, it's like you are creating the flow together. As long as you're following your own gut response, Karan, and for your partner to follow his intuition. Otherwise, you may, step out of tune. You may notice that happens too when either one of you is not following your own authority. And then we also have, I didn't mention these. We have this connection, which again is about the love of the body. It's about getting into your body, about knowing when things are safe, listening to your intuition, listening to others' intuition, accessing that in where you are in time, where you are within the environment. Karan, you're giving direction in the relationship, as in, this is where our relationship is going. This is our physical environment. And then the connection here between the 31st and the 7th gate, which is about influence and this sense of leadership that the two of you bring in. I don't know if you have a large family, but the two of you together have this sense of leadership that you're kind of guiding the family, possibly guiding the family, being the ones that people are looking at, like, well, what are we supposed to do? Where are we going, etc. That's kind of what you bring in together. Okay, any other questions, any thoughts? I don't know how many charts I still have left. Let's see. I have Johnny and Robert. Okay, let me just do Johnny and Robert. Johnny, I don't know if I pronounce your name correctly. I know it's Janice, so I'm just calling it Johnny. Please put it into the chat if I mispronounce it, and my apologies in advance. So interesting, again, when you're looking at these two charts, you immediately see that, hey, in Johnny's chart, there's a gap between the top and the bottom, and that gap is being made up by Robert. Wow, that's very cool to immediately see that, right? So both of you are, well, at least Johnny is a generator, Robert, manifesting generator, same kind of energy where you're looking at that. I have an amount of energy that I can do with during the day. I don't necessarily need to take naps. You can. It's not that you can't. It's just that it's not really necessary for you to really restore your energy if you're following your normal flow. Robert tends to be quicker, even though he can be too quick for his own good. You know, Johnny, you will have two different places of how you look at life. And Robert, actually, I'm not sure if you fully connect them. Let's take a look. But it does fill it in for you. So it does not necessarily fully connect right here. You see there's a little gap here. So when you two are processing big things, I would say go out to dinner, go to a coffee shop, go into an environment where there are other people around you that can fill that gap in, so that you can bring bring these amazing insights that you have, and where you can then connect that to that intuition that you're bringing in, as well as that emotional wisdom. Yeah, because there's a lot of wisdom that you both bring in together. So it would be great if you find a way that really works to make that available to all of you. You're having this real great intuitive connection to the now. There is this sense of we call this channel involuntary impulse. There is this tendency to kind of blurt things out together, like me be able to finish each other's sentences, or you know, really sharing those kinds of things that can be shocking to some people, like where is that coming from? But you have a real nice connection there. You can really see how this works for both of you. You give each other a lot of connection. Again, this emotional yumminess on the one hand, this sense, my voice is going, this sense of the splenic awareness, that sense of well-being. There's a lot of intuitiveness that's happening there. This sense of touch, that's really important for both of you. That's really a way where you connect together. And where also in moments of like strife, that can be a place to connect. For Robert, this may not necessarily be something that you're aware of, Janice, that you're that Robert has this insecurity in a sense, and really wants to be sure about things sometimes, like really wants to you know, dot the I's and cross the T's, and you can really support them in that. Both of you have this sense of like, we're in this life is just happening, and there's this life bumping into you, you bumping into life, and both of you can really laugh about that. It's a nice place of connection for both of you. Okay, any question? Let's see. Can I please share about 2027, how our relationships and connections will change? That is a huge conversation. So I will say just 2 sentences about that, because that's a really big conversation. So 2027 is when the new Rave being is coming in, which has the emotional awareness. It's when the first people will be born with this emotional awareness. Emotional awareness is our next frontier, this area, you know, the solar plexus, where we have been dabbling in to gain the wisdom. This is really where the wisdom will be fully coming out around that age. There is a lot more that has to do with it, but it will definitely change our relationships. It will definitely change our whole way of being. We'll be becoming much more focused on really being the individual that we are, really being aligned with our internal frequencies, our internal alignment. And that's kind of where I want to go with this right now. All right. Any other questions? I hope this has been fun. It certainly is fun for me to just take a look at people's relationships like that and see where you connect, and see where the yumminess is, and where those areas of growth are. Hope it was insightful. Any other thoughts? Please put them in the chat. And otherwise, let's see, Laura says, so beautiful, Seal, the ways that people can come together. Yes, you are so welcome. And sorry I didn't get to your chart. Maybe sometime in the future I'll do this again, because it's just a fun thing for me to do. And I'll make this replay available. So if you're seeing things in these different charts that are also resonant with your chart. If I didn't have a chance to talk about your chart, you can still kind of piece little things together. At least that was my hope. All right, everybody, have a wonderful Valentine's Day or rest of it, and hope to connect with all of you sometime soon. Take care.